Pedro from A&P-Reacts. I'm here today with Stefan van Canto to talk about To the Power of 8, out June 4th on Napalm Records. How's it going?
Everything's fine. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for taking the time. The first question that I have for you is, let's talk about the title of this record, To the Power of 8. I mean, this is the 8th album. There's 8 members on this record. I feel like all the stars were aligned for you guys to call this record To the Power of 8. Was that the reasoning behind it?
Actually, yes. So there's not that deeper meaning behind it. And besides our only concept album, Voices of Fire, the album titles in Canto don't transport any deeper message. So these were exactly the thoughts that led to calling this album To the Power of 8.
What you see is what you get.
Exactly.
What drove the inclusion of Philip Dennis Schunk on this album? What was the reason behind it?
We played a show together actually on Summer Breeze Festival 2019. It's already 2 years now, where he joined us. As a guest, and this was fun, and it also showed that the 3 voices really work in perfect harmony together. So we asked him to be a special guest on like 1 or 2 songs. Then pandemic kicked in. We all had way more time to songwrite, to arrange, to record, to produce, and then it was not like 1 or 2 songs, but actually all 12.
Wow. That takes me into my next question, because listening to a Van Canto record, there's a sense of simplicity in terms of how I digest the music, but I also understand the complexity that goes behind creating an album where you have so many different voices coming in, and everybody has a role and is doing something. So could you move the veil a little bit and let us know, how does the creative process work behind a Van Canto record, and was it different on this album?
Yeah, very good question, and also great to hear if somebody really thinks like the creative process behind. I mean, for me personally, as the main songwriter, it's not so much different than writing metal songs for another band or one of my projects, for example. I pick up a guitar or I take the chords on piano. So the difference is more in the arranging the different voices when it comes to applying the Van Canto style. But you put it right, like that. Everybody has his. I don't know how you put it, but after 15 years, of course, we know who is sounding good in what range, and we know who can do this kind of imitation best, and who could sing the solo in this song. So, of course, it's more like putting together all the ingredients that we already know to something to create a new song. So it's more about the songwriting and not so much about more like, how could we imitate a guitar? We should know that after 15 years, of course.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have great rakakakas, like high ones, low ones, moving side to side. You guys really have a really well-oiled machine in terms of how everything comes together. And that's why it feels simple to me listening. But I'm also, I think, intelligent enough to realize that, my God, there's a lot of layers to a Van Canto track. So this is perhaps a false sense of simplicity. Do you agree?
I totally agree, and it's also raising the question for me personally: why am I still doing that? It could be so easy, just pick up a guitar, of course. But I mean, the better we get, or the not the better, but the closer we get to the impression that the listener has, oh, this is real guitars, the better the job is that we did. And this means a lot of layers, a lot of overdubbing, retrying everything again, and yeah, that's true. Yeah, still, I don't have the perfect answer why we do it. It's just so much work, but if the output is listenable in a way that it not sounds complicated, it's actually what we want to achieve, because we want to give the listener a good time and not like, you have to read this manual to understand our music. This would not be the, yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't work. You said that for this album, because of the pandemic, you guys had more time on your hands, a little bit more freedom from that perspective. Having said that, every album comes with its own challenges. So what do you see as being some of the biggest challenges that you guys were faced when putting this album together?
I have to admit that with all the negative effects of the pandemic, actually the time we had, and not no existing deadlines, because with all other albums, you have the release date planned around a tour that is already booked like 1 year in advance, and then you cannot miss the deadline because the tour is already booked. And this time we chose the release date after we knew the album is close to finish, so it was really more relaxed from our side, and also we are used to record one after another. We are spread all over Germany, so we have to have some logistics anyway if we do music together. So we were used to that. Really cannot say that there were big challenges. I think the fun part perhaps was missing a little bit because we were not allowed to sing choirs together, for example, and all these moments where you really feel like a band because you get together or you have a pre-listening with your fans. All these moments were not possible. So this was the biggest down part moment of the production.
I'm sure getting the end result, the final product, that album in your hands is the most rewarding aspect of making a record. But when you're going through the record process, is there something specifically that you really enjoy? Is there something that you look forward to that it's maybe part of the creative process, part of the recording, but something that it's something special to you?
Great question. I think there are perhaps 2 or 3 milestones in a production. So the first one is, of course, if you really have the feeling that you are struck by creativity and a new melody enters your mind. This is something that I, of course, personally love most of being a songwriter. And then in the production process, it's when the lead singers kick in, because then all the hard work is done. It means that we recorded all these, as we mentioned, uncountable layers of rakataka vocals and the drum recordings and the bass recordings. And then finally we see how the song gets together because we do the lead recording. And then personally for me, the most intimate time with our own music is of course when we finished recording, but we haven't released the album yet. So these 2 to 3 months between we can listen to the album, but nobody else in the world did. So that's just where we are with our music and without any opinions or ratings and this I also like this time. This is the time where I listen to the album, and after the release, most of the time I never listen to the albums again. But I play them live, so yeah.
During that time, do you ever second guess yourself? Like, because you're listening to the album and there's no other voices to kind of give you any input. It's just you guys. So the more you listen to it, the more, do you second guess yourself at all, or you feel comfortable that once the album is done, the album is done?
Does second guess mean like I'm considering to
Yeah, maybe we could have done something quite different.
Okay.
We still have 2 months to go. Let's go back into the studio and just
No.
refine this
No.
here.
No, I haven't experienced that, and I personally like that a creative process when writing an album comes to an end when you decide for example, getting the mastering done, because it's always you have to find an end so you can take this album as another inspiration for the next thing you compose. So the second guess thought, I don't have it so often. And I also enjoy, I mean, we are confident with what we produce and what we release. So for me, it's really a nice time that I have with my own music, so to say, and nobody else can tell me what this music means or how it's received. It's just music and us.
When I listened to the album, I didn't look at the tracking listing. I just pressed play and I kind of went through the record. And the first thing that kind of jumped at me was how you guys spread out the covers throughout the track listing of the record. I thought that was genius. Like, you guys didn't bunch them all up at the beginning or bunch them all up at the end. It was almost like, a little bit of a break. So you get a bunch of songs like original material from you guys, then you get a cover, kind of resets your palette, if you will, and then you go back to some other songs. Was that by design? And if it was by design, what are you trying to achieve with it?
It was by design, and I'm really happy that somebody finally notices. But perhaps this is because you are just as old-fashioned as me and listen to an entire album from the very start to beginning. This doesn't happen so often in times of playlists or something where you only choose like 1 or 2 songs. But for us, there's a special meaning behind it. Not only we want to have like the what's the English word? Dramaturgy, I don't know. So yeah, so the flow of the album. So perhaps if we cover a ballad, we would not place it after our own ballad, so to say. So we have that speedy stuff. We have the decision who is the lead singer. So we want to place that on the album as well. And especially for our own songs, it's important that we try to keep the high level of these world hits with our own composition. So if we only have like 4 covers in the beginning of the album, and then there's this B material of Canto, then it would not feel good for us because we want to be also songwriters. And if you cover some smash hits like from, I don't know, Queen, Iron Maiden, or Metallica, or Amon Amarth, you really have to give your best to keep up with the songwriting level. And that's also why we try to put the covers in between and not at the beginning or the end of the album.
How do you approach the cover songs? Like, do you try to keep some of the, obviously you want to keep some of the original material there so that there's that connection to the original song. But when you look at your own creation of your own tracks and you look at the covers, what's the main differences in terms of how you approach bringing those songs to life?
Yeah, I mean, it's mainly about dealing with expectations, I'd say. So first of all these songs that we cover, we really love them, and we want to do the original composers also some honor. And there are covers that have to be really recreated because you expect a riff like Master of Puppets, or also the starting riff of Amon Amarth's Raise Your Horns. You want to have it exactly the way like the guitar plays it. So then it's really listening to the original notes and then deciding which singer sings which note. And there are other covers, for example, the Iron Maiden cover, where we rather pick let's call the harmonies and the spirit of the song and try to transport it into a little bit more modern arrangement and vocal style. So yeah, different approaches. Recreation on the one side, and on the other side, just taking the mood and the spirit and the chords and try to make a Van Canto song. So Iron Maiden, the Run to the Hills cover for me feels more like a Van Canto composition because we did not pick every original note. And Amon Amarth, Raise Your Horns really feels like let's recreate that thing.
Yeah, I agree with you on that take. And that brings me to my point that I wanted to ask you, which is when you look at this record and you'll see some of the intricacies of these songs, either be the original material or the covers, was there a song on both sides of that spectrum, on the cover side and on the original material, that was very difficult for you guys to get it to the final point that you felt like this is Van Canto?
I think this decision is way earlier in the process. So, for example, during songwriting or during already picking the covers, if it really felt like a really hard job for us to reach a state where we say, no, we are happy with it, then it most probably wouldn't sound that good because you can hear that effort or the struggle you had. So if we start recording something, we already know that it sounds like Van Canto, or that it's picked for the lead singer's sweet spot. And I can't remember any recording we did where we decided after the recording, oh no, let's not use that song. So
Everybody looks at Van Canto, and obviously the vocals is the selling point. I mean, like you're not coming into a Van Canto album looking for guitar solos, so everybody's looking at the vocals as that selling point. Now, I wanted to ask you this: is there something within a Van Canto album that the general fan doesn't really grasp outside of the vocals that you feel like it has such an incredible importance to the end result of an album or a song?
yeah, I mean, obviously, the only real musician in the band, being the drummer, has a huge impact on the sound. And Bastian, with his very melodic style of drumming, is part of the definition of Van Canto sound, definitely. But I have the feeling that many people notice that. And I mean, also live, Van Canto is defined by a very loud drummer where the singers have to keep up with the volume that Bastian defines. So yeah, I think the drums also has a special meaning. And this time we noticed that I had an interview where somebody asked me why we did not show the solo guitar player in our videos, but try to make the impression that we did this with our voice. And then I had to explain them that the guitar solos are actually done by voice, and he did not believe it. So I think for the solo guitar parts, perhaps this is something where people really uh, are like, oh, you have to listen to that. It's not a real guitar. So that's also always fun to hear if people tell us that.
I find that hilarious that somebody's telling you what you did or didn't do on the record. I mean, nobody better than you knows what went into the record.
No, but it was not. He was not unfriendly. He was just 100% sure. Okay, this is a real guitar, but why? Why don't you show the guitarist? Was it because of the pandemic, or wasn't he allowed to join you on stage? It was no, there is no guitar. We sing that, and he had a breakdown in a live YouTube video. I like that very much.
I love that. I have one last question for you, and that is, as you look at this album and as you look at the songs on this record, is there a song that has a specific or a special meaning to you?
Uh, Special meaning are all the songs. I mean, it's like asking me which of your babies do you like most. But when it comes to favorite songs, it's really, for me, it's a good sign that it's a good album, that these favorites change on a daily basis. So we published our Faith Focus finish video 2 days ago, and because we are checking the reactions, this is the song that I currently listen to the most. So I would pick this as my favorite, but it changes on a daily basis.
Well, Stefan, thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it. All the best to you and everybody in Van Canto with this new album, The Power of 8. 8 is a big number on this record. So thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. All the best.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.